Very rarely do I discuss sensitive subject as this. However, the way the LGBTQ community is progressing is at an alarming rate. Knowing I have the philosophy and mindset to decimate their worldview within a fraction of a second, I refuse to sit back and let this kind of things progress. I made a video on this previously, and the amount of backlash I got was monumental. In fact, this proves my philosophy in and of itself, that I'm willing to put myself in harm's way just to get this message across. So why should you listen to this? Why not go somewhere else? Because my philosophy are very unique. We do not adopt mainstream solution as touching problem. In fact, as a reason of this discourse, you'll be learning you do not solve problems by solving problems. You solve problems by finding the cause and providing solution. The problem fades away naturally. So the same report that drove me to create the previous video has come to my table, which is a mom who sent her child overseas. The child, after months, is now on estrogen, coming online to identify with a gender that wasn't his default. As I elaborated in that previous video, majority would try and laugh this off, but you do not understand what it means for an African, let alone the Nigerian, to send this child abroad. It means all dollars were scraped, every single thing rest on this child. Here's how the Nigerian mindset is. Let me give you a breakdown of how this human think. They invest in a child, they scrape up every single thing. Once you're done with school, they send you over there to find a better life. Then you come back, convert the hard currency, and you establish. So it's more like an investment. Outside the child's well-being, which we'll talk about in a second, the investment potential has been cut off. Because for a man to sit who can't identify his own gender, who is confused as touching his personality, who would want to hire that kind of person? In fact, you lack so much focus, you're so self-absorbed. Have you met one of these transgender people? They're always talking about themselves, always talking about their new experience and how it feels so good to be them. There's no time to talk about productivity, progress, anything of that sort. And please permit me, anytime I wipe off sweat, it's because this room is very, very hot. The atmosphere in here is scorching. I would have loved to postpone this video, but out of the love I have for you, I decided to create it. So when you see me wipe up sweat and you see bullets building up my forehead, it's not a consequence of anxiety or any ailment you humans suffer from. It's a consequence, it's a reason of the atmosphere. Now that's out of the way, let's stay on track. As I was saying, there's no potential for progress once you're confused about your own gender. The solution to this problem is not by engaging only in discourse, because discourse is important. In fact, what we're doing is discourse. But what we discuss about, hauling at them the logic of Socrates and trying to make it logically acceptable, saying a man is a man and a woman is a woman. If you do not understand that sentence in and of itself, breaking it down further just makes it absurd. So that's not the right way to go about it. Tonight, I'll give you 2 reasons why standing men two reasons. By now, you should have understood we do not solve problems by solving problems. That's wrestling with the effects. You solve problems by identifying the cause of the problem and providing solution. So one of the keys, one of the reasons a standing man sits is purposelessness. Purposelessness. Let's sit and analyze as professionals. Every single person born on this earth was designed to do something. And humans are not purposeless beings. What I mean by this is you cannot function indefinitely purposeless. You will find an engagement. Let's define purpose so we get our terms right. Purpose is your God-given assignment. The components of purpose is the daily trivia you pay as touching the actualization of that assignment. So purpose is something you look forward to. Purpose is something you get up every single day happy to do. Unfortunately, LGBTQ feels this problem because humans are not mentored enough to understand how to identify and as well as accept purpose. And if that's something you struggle with, there are extensive teachings based on that. And there's a playlist of which I've compiled that would help you solve that problem. So look for it. Aside that, purpose can be perverted. Purpose is not necessarily what you're interested in. You're interested in the feeling derived from purpose. I'll give you an example why humans can't indefinitely function without purpose. Let me logically demonstrate. If you see a guy walk from point A to point B, B to A to B, you won't notice for the first hour. However, over a long enough time frame, you would sit and go, "Hello friend, are you lost, sir? Are you lost?" You would worry because that sight in and of itself is not acceptable. It's not imbibed. It's not imbued. That's not how humans function. In the same vein, if you see a human crawling, not a baby, a full-grown adult crawling, you would worry. I'm appealing to common sense because in this age of insanity, in this age of subjectivity where the sky is green, so long you think it that way. So I'm trying to logically demonstrate and appeal to common sense why X is X. You cannot function indefinitely without purpose. So that's the first thing. To go further down the rabbit hole, you would understand that LGBT community in and of itself is a movement. What did I tell you about cause of problems? So you lack purpose and this fuels a need. Remember the value exchange theory. You provide value, or in order to get response, you feel a need with a solution. Zuckerberg found a way for us to connect globally and reach family and friends. That's why we patronize his products. In the same vein, LGBTQ found a way to give people purpose, hope, a new something, a collectivity, an activity that brings people together. And humans love to be part of a movement. Humans love to be the underdog. They love to be the minority that's being oppressed. Whether or not the concept is right, whether or not the ideology is right, they don't care. So long you're part of that movement. So LGBTQ has filled that need. If you sit and analyze the philosophy of one of these progressive, you would come to the conclusion very quickly that this is shit. You can vehemently express why their logic is flawed, yet they would sit and make incoherent arguments. You now see that the solution is not try and engage in that kind of discourse, is to highlight the reason behind the problem. Oh, fuck. So, the cause of the problem, which is purposelessness, LGBTQ has fueled the need for this heat is distracting me from this converse, from this discourse. So LGBTQ says, is we against them, we are oppressed, they don't want us to express ourselves. A man convinced against his own will is of the same opinion still. So irregardless, have you ever sat and watched one of these progressive debates? You would notice the conservative astutely decimates the worldview of the person at the other end, yet he still doesn't want to concede. Even worse, he goes into this name calling or some blab or something that doesn't make sense or pointing fingers. That logic is incoherent. It doesn't make sense. It's just I believe, I feel, I should, we should, I think. It's not based on logic. It's not based on logic. So that's the first one, purposelessness. LGBTQ feels the need, they get up, they derive the same feeling they would from a constructive purpose. So you're deriving the same feeling, but from a negative outlet. So that's the first point, purposelessness. You lack purpose. Again, if that's something you struggle with, there are extensive teachings as well as a playlist constructed to address that subject. The second is to feel something, the need to feel something. Anybody who has done something worthy of admiration, anybody who has tried to become successful at anything at all, anything, you don't have to be an entrepreneur to engage in this experience, but you would agree with me that once some things are fucked, once life, the script, isn't going in accordance to how you planned, you resort to hedonism, drugs, women. You try to escape the situation in and of itself. I believe in this philosophy that as you grow older, you become more silent. Because I remember when I started the business, after I felt the brutal crushing of life, the urge to go out, to do something, no matter how psychologically fortified you are, you will feel the urge to escape. So it's not about name calling, pointing fingers at the people in the Epstein files, and all of those things people do to portray sanctimony. It's not all about that. You need to feel something. Once you get past this point, you stop pointing fingers, you stop blaming people, you stop judging. Because life is very nuanced. If I say to you, is lying wrong? You go, no. What if the person lying is trying to save his family because they are all going to die? Is it still wrong? You're trying to take an extremely complicated argument, reduce it to a sentence, which is failure. They need to feel something. In this day and age of technology, where you have access to endless content of people doing better than you, Most likely it devolves to depression, and in fact, I'm supposed to do a teaching on depression and review the various ways. From this concept, by now you should understand the cure to depression is not going to the gym or reading 30 pages a day. No. All that's going to get you, you become a depressed muscular man. Sure, it's a temporary fix. You feel better about yourself. And in fact, it still boils down to the concept of purpose. Perhaps you might become a bodybuilder and start training people and making money off of that. The subject of depression neutralizes as a consequence of that discovery. So it's not necessarily the gym in and of itself, but what you found from the gym. Interesting. It's really hot in here. So the need to feel something, the need to feel something. Imagine this as an average teenager, you go online, see people who are doing way better than you, 17, 18, 19-year-old millionaires, and you come back, look at the shit of your life. LGBTQ, again, feels that need. It feels that need because you feel something, you're part of something, you feel like your life is counting, you feel like you're worth something. Whenever you go naked and put up a signboard, hold this rainbow flag, you feel like you're making progress. Unfortunately, you're not. You're not. You have been convinced. Imagine 20, 30 years ago sitting and making the argument that stripping naked on the street while 5-year-old observe your stupidity somehow makes you free. Do you see how logically flawed it is? Exactly. So the need to feel something. You notice how all of these concepts are stacked upon one and the other. The first, purposelessness. The second, the need to feel something. Should I give you one more? No bonus point today. So, improve the quality of your existence with that key. Bible famously says it. He who is faithful in little is faithful in large. As always, my friends, a pleasure speaking to you. I'll see you in the next one.